Hi everyone. Today we are going to delve into more African civilizations. We'll be looking from Paleolithic culture to some of the great empires. Just to level set, we did cover ancient Egypt in the northeast corner of Africa earlier in this course, but Egypt was not the only great civilization to arise in Africa. The Kingdom of Kush, we covered a little bit in ancient Egypt because it also existed on the Nile River and at times controlled what we call ancient Egypt. Carthage in North Africa, modern-day Tunisia, we touched on in our module in the Roman Empire. I can't remember if we really got into the Punic Wars or not, but Carthage was one of the Mediterranean Sea civilizations, so all that cultural exchange was taking place. In this module, we will look at the African empires that are not located on the Mediterranean Sea. Aksum, Male, Zimbabwe, Kilwa, Ghana, and more. There is so much to cover and so many unique cultures, just like there was in North America. We won't be able to cover everything. We'll cover a few of the major empires, and then when we get to the rise of the university module later in the semester, we will also circle back to Africa, so stay tuned. We had just in Africa, North Africa, where the Sahara Desert is now, there's a lot of rock art, which is equivalent to the cave art that we studied at the beginning of the course during our module on Paleolithic culture in the Chevet Cave in France. Um, then we have some Neolithic cultures in West Africa. The Great River Valley cultures we'll be taking a look at there, and that's where the Yoruba culture arises from. Then we have a new type of human cultural organization that we haven't really covered before, and that's what's called nomadic pastoralism. This is domestication of animals. While many of the Neolithic cultures we studied paired the rise of agriculture with animal husbandry and remained in one primary location, some of the African cultures domesticated animals and then followed in a regular pattern of movement with their livestock to find fresh pastures and water. This practice is often found in more arid regions and allows herders to maintain their livelihoods while preserving the environment through grazing in different parts of the country. In addition to some African cultures that practice this type of cultural organization, it was also common in Arabia and Mongolia, as well as other parts of Asia. And there are cultures alive today that are still engaging in nomadic pastoralism. And then we'll look at some of the early cities and civilizations, the big ones, the wealthy ones, the ones that created a lot of cultural artifacts that we can look at and study. Trade routes and culture. A lot of Africa was built off of trading. So we had the Maritime Silk Road that connects East and South African cultures to Asia and Arabia. We learned about that in our module in Southeast Asia. There were ships going back and forth and exchanging ideas, cultural artifacts, wealth, gold, etc. Then we also had the trade routes in the Mediterranean Sea cultures that came from the traders came from Europe and what we call the Middle East to North Africa, trading goods back and forth. But that wasn't where the trading stopped. Then those North African cultures were trading with the cultures in more in the interior of Africa. So we have this idea that in Africa, the inland areas are trading with the coastal cities, and the coastal cities are trading with other cultures on other continents. and there was a lot of gold being traded. So let's see. So the historical context matters. Just as when we explored North America, we had Western methods of research that discounted many cultures that were different from their own as inferior or less advanced. Some of these ideas were based on theories of evolution that were misapplied. In other words, there was this belief that the more technology you have, the more advanced you are on the evolutionary scale. And a lot of these ideas arose from religious beliefs and the publication of Darwin's On the Origin of the Species, which was published in 1859 during the era when European countries were actively colonizing other cultures around the world. We're not going to get into Darwin's book, but that those ideas that Darwin propagated were, then play out for a good 150 years in terms of how archaeological and anthropological research is done around the world. And to keep in mind that indigenous African cultures, as well as North American cultures, had non-Western methods for understanding the past, which makes communication between cultures a little more challenging. So as we move in to Africa, let's dive in, let's learn what we can. New things are being learned all the time. Remember, we don't know what we don't know yet. And with that, if you have questions, please ask. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.